the Torah, Parsha Zachar. Remember, it's an Amalek. And we said that if you were not able to be in Shul for whatever reason, you can b'diavad b'yaitze on Purim. Purim day, when they read the Megillah, right before they read the Megillah, there's going to be a reading of the Torah, not Parsha Zachar, Parsha Beshalach, but it also speaks about Amalek. So if you did not hear Parsha Zachar on Shabbos, you can be yaitze on Purim. It's not the best. It's not the same level like doing it on Shabbos, because that's the real reading of Parsha Zachar. But if you didn't hear on Shabbos, you can be yaitze on Purim with the reading that's read right before the reading of the Megillah. But we said that the one who's reading the Torah has to have you in mind. Doesn't have you in mind for the reading, you're not yaitze, because every mitzvah that's commanded from the Torah, there must be kavanah, there must be intention. There's no intention of doing the mitzvah, you haven't done the mitzvah. So if he doesn't have you in mind with the mitzvah of Parsha Zachar, so he's reading the Torah on Purim. Purim day, it's not really the mitzvah of Parsha Zachar, but you want to be yaitze with Parsha Zachar. So you have in mind to be yaitze Parsha Zachar. So the one who's reading the Torah also has to have you in mind with the reading of Parsha Zachar. Otherwise, you're not yaitze. So the Torah has to be told to have people to have everyone in mind. Those who do not hear Parsha Zachar, so they'll be yaitze with Parsha Zachar. So now we come to Tainus Esther, the fast of Esther. So this coming Monday is going to be Tainus Esther, the fast of Esther, which we fast. I think we didn't discuss it here. We didn't discuss the reason why it's called Tainus Esther. It ever gives a very interesting reason. That the reason why it's called the fast of Esther, because we could assume that the only one who fasted was Esther. Okay, so let's start. I jumped a little bit. What does it say in Halacha? Why do we fast the day before Purim? Just Tainus Esther. Reason why we fast is because back then that was the day that the Jews fought against their enemies and defeated them on the 13th day of Adar, and their following day was Purim. They rested from it. So because that was the day they fought against their enemies, and when you go to war against your enemies, you have to daven to Hashem, and fast is also part of davening. So in Halacha says we could assume that they were fasting. So we also fast in this state. So like this, we could connect with what happened back then, and also to bring out what the power of fasting is. That just like back then, fasting and doing tshuva and davening had tremendous power that it brought about the victory. So to now, whenever we are in trouble, if we daven to Hashem, when we do tshuva, we fast, Hashem will listen to us. So that's the idea of fasting on Tainus Esther, the day before Purim. The Rebbe asks that, why is it called Tainus Esther, the fast of Esther? All the Jewish people fasted. Why is it called the fast of Esther? So those that explain, because in the Megillah you have about the fast of Esther. If you read the Megillah, you find over there that Esther sent a message to Mordechai that they should fast for 3 days, 3 days and 3 nights, which coincided with Pesach. So some explain it's connected to that. Even though that fast was a Pesach and it was a 3-day fast, but some explain, well, it's not a connection. It's called the fast of Esther. So in other words, they explain it's a combination. We fast, as we explained before, because that was the day they went to war. But we call it the fast of Esther because the Megillah, it speaks about Esther declaring a 3-day fast. So we're not going to fast for 3 days. So we connect it to the fast of Esther in the Megillah. The Rebbe does not accept this answer, and the Rebbe says that the reason why it's called the fast of Esther is because we could assume that she was the only one who fasted. When they went to war, it says the Jews fasted, because you daven and you fast. But the Rebbe says, you're going to war, you fast. It makes sense. You don't need to go to war, you need all that energy, right? And now you're fasting. So it doesn't make sense that the Jewish people fasted. Even the women who weren't in active combat, but also they still have to be involved in whatever they need to do to protect themselves. So running, fighting, you need energy to whatever you're involved with. If you're in a situation where you have to be on the run, on the defense, whatever, whatever says it doesn't make sense that anyone was fasting back then because you have to do things in the way of nature. The only Jew who didn't have to was totally protected was Esther because she was in the palace. She didn't have to do anything to protect herself. So the Rebbe says we could assume that she was the only one who fasted that day. And we could say that's the reason why it's called the fast of Esther, because Esther was the one who fasted. Yeah.
The first opinion is that she was the one that declared the fast. That's why it was.
Not the first opinion.
No, like the one that you mentioned before.
The reason why it's called the
Yeah.
fast of Esther, no. Oh, no, you mean to say the reason why, yeah, okay.
I'm just clarifying
I'm
what
saying that those that explain why is it called Tainus Esther,
Yeah.
because the name we gave, we connected with a story in the Megillah, which was Esther declaring a 3-day fast, which coincided with Pesach. So being you have this idea of Esther declaring a 3-day fast in connection with the miracle of Purim. But now there's a reason to fast the day before Purim, as we explained before. So the name is connected to the Megillah because
Oh,
it's we want to have explain, want to make a connection with the Megillah with the fasting, even though it's not the same day, it's not the same fast at all. But if you want to like we celebrate Purim to commemorate what happened, so the fast has a connection. So we call it the fast of Esther because we want to draw a connection between the fast that we're fasting now and make it connected to what happened back then as the fast cleared the fast back then brought about the victory. And now we're also fasting, even though the reason is because that's the day we went to war. But the name we call Esther because we want to make a connection with the Megillah. We want to show that there's a connection between what Esther did, which brought about the victory, and now we have Purim. So we call it the fast of Esther. Like we want to give it a name. We find a name that matches it. Oh, it's a name that suits the fast because Purim. And Esther also declared a fast in the Megillah. Well, it was a 3-day fast, it was different. But there's some. So, like, always we give a name, find a name, let's find a name that matches. So people give a name because a child was born close to Chafei Shvat, they'll give Chaim Mushka. They'll give all your Chaim Mushka, but whatever. There's certain names that they'll specifically, because it's connected to a certain name, they will give that name. So it's a name that has a connection. If it ever doesn't find its answer so truthful. In other words, to say this was actually the reason because it's not a 3-day fast and it's not the same time and we call the fast of Esther is not, it never gives this explanation why it's called the fast of Esther. Okay, so before you go to sleep, that's the night of Tainus Esther, you should have in mind that in case you wake up early, you'll be able to drink something because people will eat whatever. Sometimes you wake up early and the fast begins somewhere. Fast begins at dawn. We're going to look up the exact time, look it up later. Well, the fast begins at dawn, about 6 or something. Look up later if you want. Whatever that time is, you wake up before that, you want to eat and drink. But if you went to sleep intending to sleep for the night, and then you wake up early, I woke up early, let me eat and drink. When you went to sleep last night, what were you thinking? I was thinking, I'm going to sleep. You think you're going to get up early? Why? I want to sleep. I'm okay. You sleep, get a good night's sleep, and I'll fast. Now you woke up early. Now you want to eat and drink. You didn't have it in mind. The fast already began. You can't eat and drink. Before you go to sleep, you have to stipulate, have it in mind. At least, maybe some say it's better to verbalize it, but the main thing is you have its intention in your mind that, if I get up early, I might get up early, and if I do, I want to eat and drink. It's like this, if you wake up early, you'll be able to eat and drink. Now, it's a very easy, it's an easier fast than other fast days, which means that someone who's not feeling well will have an easier way to get a leniency for not fasting. Discuss it with the Rav, don't make a decision on your own, but there's more flexibility with being lenient on this fast day. A chassan and kala getting married do not fast. They don't fast on Tanis Esther. So if you're waiting this any time from Vav till your Beis or till your Gimel, don't ask me to make a wedding on your Gimel. You couldn't make a wedding on your Gimel. It's just that it's not so practical because it's a fast thing. And then it goes to the night. Tonight is a wedding, and it's a Gimel reading. It's just not. But you could get married on your Gimel also. You don't want to get married on Purim because you can't mix two simchas, two aim out and simchas, and can't mix one simcha with another simcha, one joy with another joy. So on Purim, you're not allowed to get married. Besides that, it's not Hanukkah. You are allowed.
Well,
Because why not?
you can't mix a simcha with another simcha.
So the word, you don't have the word simcha by Hanukkah. The word mishta, the simcha, feasting and rejoicing is said by Purim, not by Hanukkah. That's why Hanukkah is different opinions that you have to have a meal. You have to eat a meal. So you increase instead of Hanukkah, but there's no real obligation like Purim. So if you get married anytime from Vav, so you Gimel, so the Shara Brachas, so the tiny fest is still in the Shara Brachas, the 7 days, and you don't have to fast. Okay, now we go to, and during the fast, there's a mincha, you say anenu. If you're still fasting by mincha, you insert anenu into the mincha, the bracha Shema Kinenu. There is a halacha that we give maktis a shekel, which is in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, all the men would donate a half a shekel for the sacrifices that were brought to the Beis Hamikdash, which the sacrifices were for all the Jewish people. So it's obligation for all the men to give a half a shekel of silver towards the sacrifice that brought in the Beis Hamikdash. And that was done once a year in the month of Adar. That's when they made the collection, and starting from the month of Nisan, they would use the new coins that came in, and the old coins used for something else. That's how it was. The obligation was for the men over 20. It was not for women. Everyone's obligated. And the reason is because the purpose of the sacrifices were to atone for the sin of the Peit Egel, sin of the golden calf. And the women, as we know, were not involved in the Peit Egel. So being that the sacrifice that brought in this English is primarily to atone for the sin of the golden calf, so the obligation of the half a shekel that we were obligated to bring was on the men, not on the women. There's a custom also to give matzah shekel during the month of Adar, specifically on the day before Purim. And because of what we explained, that's why there's an opinion that says that women don't have to give this matzah shekel, this custom that's accepted when we give a half a shekel on the day before Purim. Some opinions say don't apply to women because originally the reason of matzah shekel is because of the sacrifices, and women weren't obligated then. So now they're also not obligated. Some say that they are obligated in terms of the custom that we have back then to commemorate what happened in the times of this and Beis Hamikdash. These days they are obligated to keep that custom. In any case, the halachas, they're not obligated, but it's a good thing, and then it's in other words, if a woman wants to do it, she can do it. But the custom is that the husband, it's also living Chabad, that the husband will do it for his wife and do it also for all the children, boys and girls, everyone. No, the boys or bar mitzvah do it on their own. But the custom is the father will do it for all the children, Not only that, even if the wife is pregnant, the husband will do it for the fetus, just like we get out of Yom Kippur, we do with the chicken kaparis. If the wife is pregnant, we also add for the fetus here too. That's the accepted practice. So if you don't have anyone doing it for you, you can do it on your own. You're not obligated, but it's a good thing to do if you wish to do it. That's a good thing to do. What is the reason why? Now, so we said that back then they did it in the month of Adar, and now to remember that, we do it also now in the month of Adar. But we actually do it not on any day of Adar, we do it on the day before Purim, on Tainus Esther. That's the custom, that's when it should be done, before the Megillah. Some do it. How many is doing it by Mincha on the fast, the Tainus Esther? Some do it in the morning for the Megillah reading, but in any case, it's done in proximity to the reading of the Megillah. And the reason is because what happened for him? The destruction of Amalek, Haman, came from Amalek. So the Matzah Shekel is connected to Haman, because Haman came to Hashverosh and he said to him, you know, there's this nation, the Jewish people, this is clear it was, they're spread out amongst the nations and they don't behave with us, we should get rid of them. And he told Hashverosh, I'm going to give you, now it's going to be a big loss for the kingdom, but you know, if you get rid of them, then you don't have taxes, you don't have working people that bring in income, that prove, that bring in money to the country. They said, so I'm going to give you money. I'm going to give you 10,000 kikar kesser, a huge amount of silver. So what it says that Hashem specifically gave us the mitzvah, a matzah shekel, to give every Jew to give the half a silver coin for the sacrifices, in order to preempt what Haman tried to do. Haman tried to bribe the Jewish people with silver. Through this, that we did the mitzvah matzah shekel, the base English, preceding what Haman did with his silver. Through that, we were able to overcome the decree of Haman. That's the reason why we do the mitzvah matzah shekel in connection to Purim. There is a custom that when we come to hear the Megillah, we wear Shabbos clothing. It's not on the same level like Shabbos and Yom Tov. Not that you actually see that everyone does it. Not everyone is aware of it. Kids like to come dressed up already. But in Allah it says that the proper thing is that in honor of the Megillah, one should wear Shabbos clothing. But again, it's not something that everyone is so particular about. So it is a good thing if you're able to, keep with that. The obligation of reading the Megillah is both for men and women, because the decree of Haman was for all the Jewish people. So there's no difference in obligation. It's not like hearing Shofar, Lovan Esrei, where you're not obligated, but you get the mitzvah. Well, there you have an obligation to hear the Megillah. The mitzvah is to hear every single word. So if you come, let's say Shabbos, to hear the reading of the Torah, right? It's a good thing to hear Kriyas Torah. If you don't hear every single word, so you don't hear every single word. Or whatever you heard, you heard. It's like, if you don't hear every word on Shabbos, so what does it mean? You didn't hear Kriyas Torah? Whatever you heard, whatever you didn't. So whatever it is, so you get 95%, 96%, whatever it is. Over here, when it comes to Purim, if you miss one word in the Megillah, you did the mitzvah. You have to hear every single word. There are opinions that say what, but the halach is, and most opinions say, no, you haven't done the mitzvah if you missed one word. Yeah. Fast? When you're not hearing the words, it's going fast.
Yeah, like one habit, different habit, right? So like, in those cases, to be always there as a ability, if you like.
Okay, so it's a good question, but step one is to start with what do we do? In other words, what's the correct thing? What's the proper thing? In other words, if this was after the fact, then we'll just discuss that, but right now, we're before the reading of the Megillah, so we have to discuss what is the proper thing that we're supposed to do. We are supposed to find a place that the reading is not very fast. The reading is loud, it's not so noisy. Do you always go beforehand? Well, but you could ask around, and sometimes people could tell you, go here, don't go there, if you try your best. In the event that you miss and you went and you did not hear every word, what does it mean you did every word? Because it was so fast, so you just didn't hear it. If it was loud and fast, you heard every word. You weren't able to follow, doesn't mean you didn't hear it. In other words, if I'm following, I'm going fast, you're so fast. Where's he up to? But you still hear it. You didn't track this word in the Megillah as the person is saying it. But it doesn't mean you didn't hear it, unless it was noisy. So it's better to hold up a given reading that's slow, and slow is a relative term. Right. Some people, when it's too slow, they don't like it. So generally, they rush. The one that gave me, they always rush. I read the they always rush me. I'm always too slow for them. Again, a little slower than average, but that's how I read. But try to go faster. It's like it's not. But some put it this way: Megillah reading should not be less than half an hour. If it's less than half an hour, it's too fast. I'm not saying you're not yet. I'm not saying it's. Sometimes I'm not saying that to go very fast to reading, but a normal Megillah reading is 30 minutes. It takes longer, but I'm saying 30 minutes is good. It's fair. Less than 30 is already, 25 is ready. Less than 30, it shouldn't be less than 30 minutes. I mean, it's too fast. Even 30 is already on the edge. But I'm saying between 30 and 35 minutes, that's a fair reading. More than 35 minutes, people consider it slow. Yeah.
What about those parts that you say together with everybody in the Megillah? Like if you miss saying those, is that an issue?
No, it's just a custom. The custom to say. But if you don't say, you don't say. Reading is to hear every word. Now, what's a good idea is that, see, many times with the banging Haman, you lose some words, right? Because Nevin says, Haman, and then stop banging. And then the Makeda is supposed to wait till it's quiet. Okay, it doesn't always wait long enough. I always try to wait. But many people, they don't have the patience to wait. They get a little quiet, they go. And the kids are still getting finished. They're still another gunshot, another, and you lose a word. So what you want to do is, while the bang Haman, and you're also bang Haman, the custom is to bang Haman, you continue reading on your own from the Megillah. Just continue reading. Okay, continue reading. Another pasuk, finish the pasuk, just another 5, 6, 7, just read another. Like this, if Rabbi starts reading and you miss a word, you already read it on your own. Because Bidi Eved, you can make up a few words on your own. That's only if you have. No, that's even if you don't have your own Megillah. Bidi Eved. If you have your own Megillah, you can read the whole time. Even if it's not the best if you don't have a kosher Megillah, but the Eved, it says you can do that. You can make up a few words, even though it's not from the Megillah itself, it's from your own Megillah. The Eved, if you miss a few words because you read it on your own, you're Yitzhak. The Eved. Yeah. Now, you have to hear in the right order. So let's say you miss a few words. Let's say you didn't have a few words. It's very frustrating. You miss a few words and you have no plans. And when you go plan out to go ahead and begin again. You only have to hear from where you missed. You don't have to go back to hear the whole Megillah. But it has to be read in the correct order. So you can't just patch up, meaning I missed the middle of chapter 6, so I'm going to go to the place and just hear chapter 6. If you missed the middle of chapter 6, you have to hear from where you missed until the end of the Megillah. So whoever you missed, you have to hear from there until then. If you missed all the way towards the beginning, then but from wherever you missed until the end, that's how much you have to make up. Right? Now, there is a custom, it says in order to bring children to the Megillah, we have to educate children with doing all the mitzvahs of Purim. However, children that will disturb the Megillah should not be brought to Megillah. It's a big challenge that mothers have with infants, because it's much easier just to hear Megillah at the same time, other than the husband going, then the husband coming back, and the woman going to another Megillah reading. So, mothers with children try to go to the show, and they try to plan to have the children, being calm, taking care of them, giving them a lollipop, whatever. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So that's a challenge that mothers have, and it has to be done with thoughts. Sometimes the child is rested, you put a lollipop in his mouth, and the child will be quiet the whole time. And then it always happens, this child starts screaming, and the mother has to go out. So you can't blame anyone, it's challenging. But the right thing is, if you know your child is going to make noise and disturb other people from hearing the Megillah, then it's the wrong thing, because you're causing other people to lose the mitzvah. Because sometimes people miss a word, and they don't end up going back to another Megillah reading, because it's they convince themselves, or they think they did hear it or whatever, and it's so. In any case, if you know a child is going to disturb the Megillah, so then that child should not be brought. Crown nights, there's many readings of Megillah, especially during the day. Night is a little harder, because there aren't that many, but there is Megillah readings after the time. There is afterwards. You just have to, back up on wherever it is, wherever they advertise reading the Megillahs, and you could find places. When they're getting out of town, it's a little difficult because aren't that many readings. So, but usually they do make for mothers another reading. Now, what else? Oh, so you mentioned about this psukim that we say loud. The reason why we say those psukim loud is there's two reasons. One reason is to increasing the joy of Purim, reading the Megillah. These are very happy sections of the Megillah that we want to read loud to bring joy. Another reason is so to keep people alert. Shouldn't fall asleep. You can. So now, there's something that you have to say the pasuk loud, so to keep people alert. That's another reason. The minig of banging Haman is a very important minig. There is discussion halacha if how important it is. Some claim that banging Haman is not a good minig because it disturbs people hearing the Megillah. It makes noise and they don't wait enough. But minig Chabad is the Frierdiker Rebbe was particular about it, its significance, and banging Haman. That is a minig that's important that we keep. And originates from this that children would take, it says to destroy Amalek, right? So there was a custom that children would make a picture of Haman, and then they would bang it to destroy him. Or they would write the word Haman on a piece of wood and then bang it until it erased. That's where it came from. And from then it evolved the minute that when they hear Haman, they start banging. It originates from this idea of symbolically destroying Amalek by banging on a piece of wood that had Haman's name on it. And from that evolved banging Haman when you hear Haman. So you could say, so what's the connection? That's why the son would say, what's this all about? But it's accepted that this is an important minig. The minig Rebbe and others sticking before that accepted it. Something called minig Yisrael Pleinim. A Jewish custom becomes part of Torah. Not every Jewish custom, but you can tell us, say, yeah, this is a real minig that accept. So we accept it and we do it, and that's an accepted practice that we bang for Haman. However, many Chabadis, we only bang when we hear the title. There's a title. Not sure what the reason is. These were brought somewhere. Only when it's a title, like Haman, the son of Abdasa, Haman, the wicked, Haman, the Agagite. Only when there's a title, only then we bang. We don't bang for every single Haman, only when there is a title. And that's much less than the regular. It makes the reading of the Megillah a little faster. Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, why do we only bang when there's a
I have to look it up. The reason, I have to look up the reason. Wait, no, I'm gonna try to look it up. Makes a major difference because there's 52 Hamans in the Megillah. So if you the way we bang on 8,
Wow.
it's a big difference. The other people that bang every Haman, and it's imagine what the Megillah is like. It's like so the bang. So I don't think they spend so much time banging because there's so many. I think they do it quicker. So how much they keep on going? I think I don't know. I was actually never in such a place.
Which circles do that?
Everywhere out of Chabad.
Oh, wow.
It's only Chabad. Chabad minute. All the Chabad, almost every minute is different.
I've been to a
Yeah.
this.
You've been?
Yeah, and it was like every single time.
But they do it quick, right?
It's much quicker.
It's shorter.
Yeah.
Because we only have 8, so we spend more time. It's just to be fair. The kids get the full share.
Yeah.
So I think it almost balances out. Right. But it makes it easy in terms of disruption because if some kid every time there's a bang, there's this possibility of continuing, and then there's a chance just to bang, just finish banging, they're gonna get to bang it, it's the whole stress over there. This is 8 times, it makes it much easier. You focus on the Megillah, and every Haman, bang, keeps disturbed. Okay. Any questions? Tomorrow there's a class too, so I guess we'll continue tomorrow. It's Hashem. Tomorrow we're going to continue with we're going to talk about the brachos of the Megillah. We're going to talk about the davening, how the davening goes Friday night, Shabbos day, the mitzvah Shal Kamonis, Matanis of Yonim, and the meaning of getting dressed up on Purim, the Hamantashin, where it comes from, the Suda Purim. So Mr. Shem will discuss that tomorrow. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, what was the in the basement that Papa Shetel was given for
The sacrifice, karbanis, the sacrifices.
Okay.
The daily set
with them. They gave the carbon and brought the half.
No. They brought sacrifices basically every single day.
Yeah.
Twice a day. And there's extra sacrifices for Shabbos, extra for Yom Tov, extra for every Yom Yom, and Shloimeh. Those sacrifices are brought on behalf of all the Jewish people, right? Now, if it's brought on behalf of all the Jewish people, then it has to come from the Jewish people. What's the system? So Hashem created the Torah system. That all the men over 20 give a half a shekel of silver. And that was the
didn't
once a
bring
year.
their own money.
No, it was brought. Why? No, it was brought. It wasn't personal sacrifice. It was communal sacrifices. There was individual sacrifices that they brought whenever the occasion came up,
like
different
the-
reasons.
or-
They had to bring a Thanksgiving sacrifice. There were different sacrifices that they would occasionally bring. Individually, a person had to thank Hashem for a miracle that happened. Yeah, so, or whatever, sin offering, whatever. That he brought his own sacrifice. These were daily offerings that were, or additional offerings that were brought in the base of Mikdash. There was one sheep in the morning, one in the afternoon for all the Jewish people. It was Shabbos, Yom Tov, right? So that came from the collection that all the Jewish people gave in the month of Adar. Each gave a half a silver coin. And they collected buckets and buckets of silver coins, and from that money they brought the sacrifices. So everyone had a part in every sacrifice. Because all the money was together. Came one, so whatever they took came from everyone together.
And with that money, they paid for the sacrifices that they would bring every day on behalf of the people.
Yes, yes. Yep, and that was the month of Adar.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is everyone?
So,
Oh, one other time of fasting, actually, you could,
yeah,
you have time to see. You wanna excited by it. Do this.
these were brought by the Kohanim.
Yeah.
Okay.
The, they voted, yeah.